What's happening, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of Pete and Joe on this June 9th here today. Special thanks to the OBR Streaming Network and OBR.com for hosting us. My name is Joe Mazzulo, and this is my man Pete Smith. And guys, we've got the final OTAs before we take the 6-week break before training camp. And my man Pete Smith you were boots on the ground today, weren't you?
Yeah, I was there. We get this in 2 more days of something resembling football, and then we are off for 6 weeks. So we're gonna soak up everything we can get.
Amen to that. Now, before we dig too much into what you saw today and what's going on with the team currently, we need to give a shout out to our man Joel Bitonio, who is officially hanging him up after being drafted in the second round back in 2014. Man, Pete, what a career. 7 Pro Bowls, 5 All-Pros, an absolute Iron Man. I mean, like, Joe Thomas gets all the cred because he never missed a start, right? But, man, was Bitonio an absolute Iron Man.
Yeah, I mean, other than the foot injury he dealt with, he was pretty consistent and then played through a fair amount of discomfort throughout his career. But, yeah, 5 All-Pros is insane. And, you know, the fact that he is a guard, the Browns have done an unfortunate amount of losing. It makes it tough for a guy like that to make it to the Hall of Fame, which is a shame because his career absolutely deserved it. And Joel said himself, the position is interior offensive line in general is underrepresented in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I would argue right tackle is also underrepresented. As a guy like Willie Anderson still not there, which is preposterous to me. But yeah, Joe Bitonio is just great. And you know, if you're looking at the team back from 1999, he's the 3rd best player. And the 2 guys ahead of him are arguably the best players ever to do it at those respective positions. Yeah. So it's like, that's a really tough road to hoe there. That Joe Thomas is, his number is going to get retired if it isn't already. Myles Garrett, presumably at some point, will have his number retired. Would not shock me at all if Bitonio's number is ultimately retired. So, yeah, on one hand, great that you had those players. On the other hand, it's a shame you didn't do more with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's always what it comes down to, what people focus on, especially when you have such a storied, wonderful career, but you just don't get to do it at the highest levels and in front of, all the fans outside of Cleveland as well. It's tough for guys like that because you're always a little bit underrated, because you're never fully given that platform to perform and show the world just how talented and good that these guys are. But man, Bitonio was a part of a lot of good lines, Pete. In fact, I was thinking about it today. I think his rookie season might have been the best. I think that might be one of the best lines the Browns have ever had in their history between, Joe Thomas, you got Bitonio at left guard, Alex Mack at center, John Greco right guard, Mitchell Schwartz at right tackle. That's loaded, dude. That is an absolute rock star line. I mean, I guess 2020 gives them a run.
Yeah, 2020 is probably where I end up, and it's just because they had more success. And the running game was unbelievable, and you had Nick Chubb and all that, but you had All-Pro at left.
You had Baker and Chubb as opposed to Hoyer and Terrence West. You know what I'm saying?
First team All-Pro at left guard, second team All-Pro at right guard, first team All-Pro at right tackle, and all in one season is crazy. And the other 2 guys are Jason Ritter, who's really good, and then Jedrick Wills, who was fine.
Really good as a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good as rookie season before he got hurt. But yeah, so that line to me is the best by a little bit. But yeah, he's tremendous. And the other thing that sort of works against Joe Bitonio, completely not his fault, is that he's the other guy that's always thrown out there is Zach Martin. And Zach Martin is an outstanding player and also warrants being in the Hall of Fame. But he played in Dallas. So, like, not that Dallas ever won anything, but nevertheless, that the highlight team to play for, and Zach Martin was outstanding.
Yeah. Well, agreed. It's going to be sad to see Joel go, but I mean, the writing was on the wall. We saw all the additions to the offensive line, specifically the interior of the offensive line. And I suppose if Bitonio wanted to come back, they could have made it work, and they would have made it work. But, I feel like we had kind of heard the rumblings that this was going to be it all off season. All right. Well, honestly, Pete, let's dive into OTAs because I'm kind of fired up about some developments today. And, again, like Monken, came out and said, about the quarterbacks, he's not going to have a starter going into camp. I didn't expect that. Everybody thought that because he hoped to have that, in his introductory press conference. But there's no competition. Like it's just like it's shirts and shorts and helmets, and you're throwing against air. There's no pass rush. There's no hitting. There's none of that stuff. It's impossible to really, really, really have these guys compete. But for starters, man, Shedeur Sanders took the first team reps. How did he look? How did you feel about the day?
Well, I would just say before that, I mean, there's a world where Deshaun Watson could have come out and, clubbed Shedeur Sanders like a baby seal. And it just didn't happen. Like, he's the 10-year vet. He should have come out here and just dominated relative to the field and made it very clear, I'm the guy who's done this. I've done this at a high level. I understand this goes. And I should win the job and make it plain as day. And it just didn't happen. And it's not happened. And it's been an uneven ride overall. That includes both quarterbacks, but is specifically relates today. I don't know what it was. It seemed like Shedeur Sanders came out with what I'm reading into sort of an extra sense of purpose, just from group and some other stuff. I felt like he was throwing a really good velocity, a lot of zip on the ball, just looked really good. And that, I think, carried over to some of the group and team stuff. And again, you always have to provide the caveat that Denzel Ward was there, barely did anything. Grant Delpit was there, didn't participate. E-Man there, didn't participate. So it's Tyson Campbell and guys, and Johnny Hickman occasionally. So, yes, I think Shedeur Sanders did well for himself today for the most part. And certainly we saw the offense in general. I would say this applies to both quarterbacks. Well, really, and including Dylan Gabriel. I thought he actually had a good day. He just didn't get very many reps. Offense moved the ball, completed passes, did the things you want to see him do. Again, I think there are a couple of situations where I thought Shedeur really stood out. There are a couple of situations where I thought, it's always difficult to grade it, but it felt like they picked up the blitz a little bit, and then Shedeur did. I thought, whether they picked it up or not, the one ball he threw down the field in team competition where they show blitz, it looks like they pick it up, and Shedeur Sanders recognizes Casey Concepcion down the right sideline one-on-one, throws it up. Casey Concepcion goes up and makes a really acrobatic catch, but was called for OPI because he sort of nudged him right before he went up. Fine, but we all saw it. Like, we saw the throw, we saw the catch, and that's sort of where you go to. So there were a couple of situations where I thought Shedeur did really, really well in terms of understanding the situation and delivering a good ball. There's also a couple of situations where he, missed high or off target or whatever reason. But I just thought he saw the field well today in both 7-on-7 and team. I thought 7-on-7 is after a group period on air where Todd Monken was not happy with the amount of ball sitting on the ground and had a few choice words about that and some sarcastic comments about the light breeze that was going about the day. They sort of picked it up. And I thought 7-on-7 looked more like, as a coach, you think 7-on-7 should look, which is completed passes all over the place. Because even if you're not making a dynamic play down the field, and there were certainly some of those, you're finding the right check down. You're doing the right things to do those things. So I think overall it was a positive day. How is it going to look tomorrow? We shall see. But, in terms of a 3-day minicamp, I thought it was a good first day for Shedeur Sanders and the quarterbacks in general.
All right. Well, and that's the thing. Monken said that tomorrow's going to be Deshaun's day with the ones, and then Thursday they're going to split them. So, again, the competition marches on. But, I mean, Pete, we've been and quick shout-out to the chat. Chef Phil, welcome, guys. Always a pleasure. Good to see you again. Back to ball. At this point, like with Deshaun not grabbing this job, does that not, like, is Vegas not all over Shedeur being the starter at this point? I mean, doesn't that make the most sense to you? Like, if Shedeur is right, if Shedor's just closing the gap more and more, and Deshaun's not distancing himself, what the hell are we doing with this guy with the bloated contract at the end of the line? And why is he going to get in the way of the young kid? I mean, and again, nothing's happened. I'm just vocalizing like what's going on in my head logically, but I don't see a point for Deshaun Watson to throw a pass this year. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to rule out the possibility that something's going to suddenly click and Deshaun Watson's going to be better.
Yeah.
But is he going to get healthier? by training camp? Is he gonna get more athletic? No. So if I'm sort of playing the odds and saying who's more likely to suddenly have to get better, to have an
Yeah.
epiphany, to break through into something, you would presume it's going to be the guy in his second year,
Yeah.
the guy who came into this situation going, he had a whole lot to learn about quarterback play, wasn't sure what he was looking at in terms of defenses, and it seems, and this is something I've posited in sort of describing what I think the process he's going through. I think he's starting to see it.
Yeah.
Now, that includes some hesitation, that includes some second guessing of himself at times. But like today, as an example, uh, I thought he was quicker on the trigger. And all of this is to say, combined with the fact he was not throwing the ball into traffic.
Yeah.
So I'm making the assumption that he's starting to figure out what the defense is doing and reacting appropriately. Now, my whole thing is I think there's still another step to a leap to make. And I think
Of
whether
course.
it's mini camp, whether it's the 6 weeks in between before we get to training camp, maybe it's the start of training camp. Hopefully, something's going to click, and then I don't think Shador will. The easiest thing to say is, well, he will draw even and make it very easy to say go with the younger player because he's a younger player.
Yeah.
But if that happens, I think he's just going to go right past Watson. That is my belief based on what I've seen to this point. But yeah, my larger thing is that since Watson did not just take control of this job immediately, or
Yeah.
at least at the point where everybody's sitting there going, yeah, it's pretty clear Watson's the better quarterback. He's the better guy, but maybe Todd Monken just wants to see if it's going to click for these kids. And I include Dylan Gabriel in that because some of the stuff I'm talking about with Shorter Sanders, I think also applies to Dylan Gabriel in terms of they'd like to see it make a little bit of a jump.
Yeah.
But the fact that hasn't happened, we're not even making the case of, well, Watson's better, but Shador might make a leap. It's basically, even Todd Monken keeps saying they're either even or it's not consistent enough to make a judgment or whatever the hell else. So when you're saying that, the longer this goes, all advantages to me go to the young guy. All of them. Just, I think he's going to get at least a little bit better. Does that mean he's going to? And the sort of thing I finished with writing is, I think winning the starting job is very achievable. Now, there's another whole conversation after that.
Yeah, that's just the start.
Can he seize the job? But at least right now, I see the path where he's going to end up winning the starting job. He's got to do it. I said the door is open now. He's got to go through it. But I thought today was a reasonable start to make that case.
Yeah, I feel like the position that Shador is in right now, given the fact that Watson hasn't separated himself, Watson hasn't stood out, and you can't like discernibly say, oh yeah, you can tell that this guy's definitely this as opposed to what Shador is. There's no separation. There's no tangible separation where you're just like nothing's jumping off the screen with Deshaun, right? So unless Shador has some sort of epic meltdown like he had in the Rams game in the preseason, unless he does anything egregiously bad, I think he's going to win this starting job. And as somebody who is a fan of Shador and maybe, paints a rosier picture than a lot of people think about Shador, I'll tell you right now, he's not good enough to be a guy. Like he's nowhere near where we ultimately want the quarterback position to be. But considering what we have, I think he's an excellent option. He's getting better and better day by day. I mean, you remember Mary Kay went crazy after that first mini camp with how Deshaun looked, how much better Deshaun looked. It was just you could tell he was a former Pro Bowler, this, that, and the other. And Monken should just name him the starter so they can let him cook and let the offense get on the same page. I remember all that. And the fact that just a few weeks later, it's already narrowed that gap. Man, if you're a Shador Sanders fan, you got to be thrilled with that.
Well, Joe, as a coach, you sort of have to let these things take hold and work themselves out a little bit. And look, let's be clear. Like, I think there are things where I can sit here and go, Todd Monken is sort of there have been practices where Todd Monken has said to the media, "You have eyes," and then proceeded to gas up the quarterbacks as if we didn't. But like, fine. But at least I give him all the credit in the world in being able to say, "Look, man, I'm not going to be rushed into making a decision. I want to see this. And look, man, he doesn't want to get into a situation where he goes, "You're the starter." Then they go to a joint practice and then have to turn around and go, "Whoa, that
Yeah.
one." Now, I have not seen anything that resembles meltdown type stuff out of Shedeur Sanders at this point. It's a different deal. We'll see. Maybe that's coming. Maybe there's still a scenario where we could see that play itself out. But so far, he's bounced back and been pretty solid to this point. But yes, I mean, you want to see it play out. You want to see the guys, the peaks and valleys of this sort of thing, and figure it out. But maybe these guys can figure out the Browns defense because they see it enough, but you want to see them against another defense. You want to see it with not that they're going to get hit, but you want to see somebody else potentially able to, I mean, the opponent be able to hit the guys in front of them, and those pieces to it. So there's just a lot to sort of wait and evaluate. But like, again, I think the trajectory is positive. I don't think I would attach the word excellent as an option to Shedeur Sanders at this point, but I'm intrigued. Like I'm happy to see him, get the opportunity to sort of figure it out and progress. So I mean, I think that could be a good thing for all involved.
Yeah, I think Shedeur fits the Browns timeline right now, and I think you can either catch lightning in a bottle with him and have something special, or he's going to take you directly to your next quarterback in the draft next year, and you're going to move on accordingly. Let's shift over to the wide receiver room real quick, Pete. We I'm an Isaiah Bond guy. I liked the idea of him last year, and I feel like especially when Shedeur got in there late, he started getting some opportunities downfield. And I mean, the general consensus was he was open all year. All year he was streaking down the field.
The consensus, you can see him behind everybody is waving and saying, "Hey, look at me."
Well, that's the thing. And Munkin pointed out last week that he had taken a jump in the last like 7 or 10 days, however he worded it. But he's been making plays. Denzel Boston, Pete, from the physical eye test part of these things, I feel like Denzel Boston looks like a dude. He looks like a player that's going to get really good and be a contributor very, very quickly.
A guy's pretty good when people on the staff are saying, coming up to you, unprompted in the conversation, basically saying, "How about Denzel Boston?"
Yeah.
That's the end of it, because
isn't it? Like, aren't you fired up about that? Like, these are like good things. You heard this early with Schlesinger. Oh, he's a dude. You can just tell he's a dude.
The team they're gleeful looking at this kid do everything he's doing right now, and that's not to take anything away from anybody else. I think there's a lot of good things they're seeing, but Denzel Boston, at his size, is what's tantalizing because. You watch the tape at Washington, you see a very good possession guy. You see a guy who can make the play with the ball in his hands. Yeah. And then you watch, and you're watching how many downfield plays is he making. And that's the point. And you sit here and go, I guess Washington just didn't have this in the arsenal or the quarterback to do it, to make it happen, that they could take advantage of. And like Shedeur hit him down the sideline today at one point, and the space he takes up is real. I think it was Chris Edmonds who tried to make the play on the ball, and it's not like Boston high pointed it, but he did spread himself out and take up the space, pluck the ball in the air, and so all of a sudden, and again, we'll see what happens. Receivers is a little different. Like, yes, pads do matter, but like, I don't expect that Denzel Boston at 6'3", 210 or whatever the hell he is
to get worse in pads.
Yeah, like I don't expect it. Like, we're gonna go, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah.
But the fact that he can do what he's doing on an offense where Jerry Jeudy can be a field stretcher, Casey Concepcion can be a field stretcher. Like you mentioned, Isaiah Bond. I think Isaiah Bond is crushing it in terms of the stuff that we talk about that we think he can do. Every second or third game, 40-yard touchdown pass or whatever it is, an explosive. Yeah. I think the area where Isaiah Bond needs to figure it out in terms of consistency is, how do I put this? Everywhere else. And it's not can't do it. Like he can do stuff, and he's really athletic, and he can find space, and he can do these other things. It's a consistency to the catch point. Like he can open, he can do these things, and it's weird. He has a real skill. Like I think he's gotten better since last year as a deep ball, uh, being able to track it and find it. But he needs to get better at the other stuff. Now, for what the Browns need him to be right this second, if all he does is run straight down the field, he's going to a couple hundred yards as long as he stays healthy. But like it, you can sit there and if you read my notes, if you're a subscriber and stuff, that you can see like, there's plays where he drops it. It's like, yeah, that sucks. And you're like, I wish you'd make this play, but I'm also kind of like intrigued by, let's see if this kid can't figure it out and become a full service receiver. Because all of a sudden, then you have 4 and 5 guys. Because like one of the guys who's never gets talked about, and it's basically since the last 2 years, I think.
Jamar Thrash.
Who's just Cedric Tillman, who's just rock solid.
Yeah. No, we don't even talk about Tillman. We talk about Tillman like he's already been traded.
Yeah, so like, and he just keeps coming up rock solid, and he's a giant human being. So like, they just have a lot of guys where you sit here and go, okay, that's interesting, and not like they're being made by guys who, aren't getting a whole lot of press because Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston and some of these other guys took up so much of the oxygen. But like Tylan Wallace made a big catch on a deep ball
play today.
You're seeing guys like Jamar Thrash just like kind of does stuff and interesting. And like even to finish practice, little Luke Flourier catches a ball where he's going across and then manages the safety like does a poor job of trying to undercut it. So then Flourier can turn it up the sideline and Tylan Wallace gets a block and Flourier is able to get into the end zone. So like you're not sitting there going, man, it's tough. It's tough out there because there just aren't weapons. And like the other guy who never really gets talked about, I don't think he's really going to at this point until we get pads on, is Malachi Corley, because it's just what he is. But he's another guy in the mix.
Yeah, I wanted to throw this up because I agree with the spirit of your statement there, Phil. But I'm a Jerry Jeudy guy. I feel like this is a guy that is decent quarterback play away from being a very good player. Like I think he's tough, right? So I would say I'm holding on to Jerry Jeudy. In terms of starting receiver money, he is at the low end. He's making what, half of what Drake London's making, right?
No, like yeah, it's not even. It's crazy.
You're right. It's like 35, and he's making what, 16, 17?
16, 17, yeah.
He's a bargain at this point.
If you put him on the block,
what
are you getting back for that? You're asking people to lowball you. Like
remember, we traded a 5 and a 6 to get him. So what are we going to get back?
Right. Like I'll tell you this, man. From watching, Todd Monken gets very involved in the receiver and quarterback session part where it's just them on air and being very focused on details and all this other. He has all kinds of praise for Jerry Jeudy. He just because he knows how to run routes. He knows how it's supposed to go. And listen, man, I am not operating in a world where the Browns have too much talent. I wait for the day where the Browns have too much talent and you're going, we have too many weapons.
I would love to bitch about our 5th receiver who doesn't get enough run. I would love to bitch about that.
Because the problem you have here is outside of Jerry Jeudy, who has proven anything on Sundays?
Nobody.
No one.
Nobody.
So
it's Cedric Tillman in like the smallest of windows.
Sure. No, I agree. Cedric Tillman has done some stuff, but like in terms of a real season,
not just a real season. I'm talking about a starter, a guy who's a starting level contributor. It's Jerry Jeudy and nobody else, because Tillman has proven that he can't be reliable enough to stay on the field. That's why we have Denzel. That's why we have Concepcion. Yeah.
Unless this is one of those situations where I'm not calling anybody else with Jerry Jeudy. If they want to call me, so be it. And they're going to have to pay a lot because he's just useful and he fits the offense. Like this is the part. I know Todd Monken didn't pick him, but he stumbled into a situation where Jeudy fits exactly the type of receiver he likes, exactly what the offensive concepts they want to do. And we can sit here and watch a whole practice and Jerry Judy's not a big featured part. Great. that means they have so many guys that are potentially in the mix that Jerry Jeudy can create problems somewhere else, or soak up enough attention that allows these other guys. Let me live in a world where I've got 4 receivers, 5 receivers who all cause problems. We haven't dealt with an injury yet at that position. Hopefully we don't, but like you this thing becomes paper thin at any position
real
if you
quick.
feel injury. And like this is including, the other part, which is one of the things that I continue to see stand out, is because we got Dylan Sampson back to get today, is we saw a lot of balls being caught out of the backfield by various guys. And not only that, but like Dylan Sampson was doing some stuff, receiver looking things as a back out of the backfield. So you've got him. You're
Love
still waiting
that.
for Gerald Fannin to come back. Look, man, the tight end position at this point is not strong.
No.
They have some pieces there, I guess, but like the best tight end of the day might have been Jack Stoll. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Well, there was
cool.
no Fannin. Fannin wasn't participating. Carson Ryan wasn't participating. So you're looking at what? Stoll, Whiteheart, Royer, Brandon Bates.
Yeah,
Right?
I love Carson Ryan. I'm a big Carson Ryan guy, but he was
Yeah.
not out there today. So like that's
Yeah.
one you can have.
Yeah. Well, and Phil, 2 things for you, Phil. Number one, absolutely. I mean, I got a wife, a 10-year-old daughter, a golden retriever puppy, and 2 cats. I'm not even a doormat. I'm like the stuff that you put under the doormat. But either way, back to the trading Jeudy thing. I get it, man. I absolutely get it. But there's so much youth on this offense. I would much rather have a Jerry Jeudy in the fold. I would much rather have a vet, a pro, a very, very, very solid player. I mean, I can't stress it enough about Jerry Jeudy, guys. His entire career, I'm talking from the second he was drafted until this very second, he was given decent quarterback play by one guy, and that was Jameis Winston for a stretch of 2025 or 2024. And he was spectacular. He was absolutely spectacular. All the drops and all the stuff that we flip out about, and I agree, it frustrates me too. But when you're a bad offense and you get 5 first downs a game, a big drop on 3rd down is going to be way more magnified than it is if you're a good offense that will just get past a bad play. Like, we're not an offense that can get past a bad play yet, and that gets saddled with Jerry Jeudy being bad, and it's just not the case. And not to go all crazy, because Phil, you're not alone. You're certainly not alone in that assessment of Jerry Jeudy. A lot of Cleveland fans would like to move on from him, but I'm with Pete, man. I want as much talent as possible. He's the only proven receiver that we have. I don't know, man. Like, I understand it to a degree, but I feel like there's a lot of talent in Jerry Jeudy that gets overlooked.
The draft isn't for 10 months. It's 10 months. And look, what message does that send to your locker room if you just start pawning off guys? Yeah. Like, I made this point, the Myles Garrett trade, they had to get a real player back, because if you just say, let's say we traded for 3 first-round picks for Myles Garrett, what message are you sending to the team? The season doesn't matter. Like,
that's exactly what you're saying. I mean, the reality of it is that is exactly what you're saying. If you move Myles without getting Jared Verse, that's a punt. That's your kick into 2027.
So you have guys who are going to play for the next, 7 months, work their butts off for the next 7 months, and you're telling them now that it doesn't matter, that this doesn't. This is not I can't stand the idea of, we're gonna rebuild. You have players on this team you desperately want to succeed.
Yep.
You don't want Spencer Fano to go out there and suck. You don't want Austin Barber, Parker Brailsford. You don't want Carson Schlesinger, Harold Finn, and so on and so forth to suck. You want these guys to experience success. You also want them to be invested in what is being built here. And if you tell them, hey, we're not going to win this year, but eventually we're going to lock in and get, like, what are we learning at that point? They are not learning anything. If anything, they're now just waiting for when they get to leave. That's a terrible message to send. And in talking to people up there, they have no interest in it. Like, it was imperative that they look at this as, you are playing for jobs now. You are trying to be part of this thing that we have going in a good direction. Todd Monken may not, we had Ben Albright on this side up. which
Yeah.
curiously we have the studio for this show because Joe didn't change it.
I did. It wouldn't let me change it, Pete. I'll try it right now. I'm telling you. I was waiting for you to say something.
But well, I thought you were just advertising for the show.
No,
said
I mean,
Todd
I'm
Monken,
nice like that. But yeah, see, it changed colors, right?
Yeah, Todd Monken said he said Todd Monken, and I mentioned this when Todd Monken was hired. Todd Monken could be one and done if they don't win enough football games, and because 2027 you could be a much better hiring cycle, and the Brown situation could look really, really tempting.
Yes.
So you could see a situation where he's one and done. Todd Monken is not coming here to just suck and lose and never get to be a head coach. Like, that is effectively what you're telling him. So it's completely unserious to be like, hey, Todd, we said the owner has come out on 2 different occasions and said you have to go win more football games. But by the way, we're also kind of trying to tank and kind of trying to do this, that, and the other thing. It's just, it's unserious and a terrible message to send to these players who you want to be good. You want this group to be good. I am all here for this group overachieving. And if we have to go into free agency and a quarterback is out there, and I'm not saying this will ever happen, but like, we'll use Baker Mayfield as an example since this has come up recently. Baker Mayfield comes out into free agency, goes, man, that Brown situation looks great. I could go there and fix mend old fences and all this stuff and have a really good situation and play good football and take this team to a division title.
Well, yeah, but Pete, go to this year. People wanted Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray wasn't coming to Cleveland this year. He might want to come to Cleveland next year, but he wasn't coming this year. And I'm not saying that Kyler Murray is a player that I want, but that's another good example. Whether it's Mac Jones, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, anybody that can play that position.
And how many people, and myself included, I got this loud wrong, thought the Seahawks were going to be not great. They won the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold as a free agent. So, like, win as many football games as you can, and we'll figure it out. Like, I feel really good about the quarterback class. We'll see what happens with that. But I want this team to experience success. I want them to build on it. Like, I would love Todd Monken to prove that he's a great coach. I really don't want to lose. There's a lot of people in that building I don't want to see leave. So the idea of, well, let's pawn off assets where it's Jerry Jeudy or Denzel Ward, even if you're trying to make the case, well, they're super valuable and that's why they should do it. I'm uninterested. The thing with Jerry Jeudy is he's not old.
Yeah.
He's 26.
Yep.
So there's a world where Jerry Jeudy could theoretically continue to be part of this. Now, ultimately, I think he's going to finish out his contract and then go, but still, I'm in no hurry. Give me more weapons. Like, I would take more guys if I could get them.
Well, not just that, Pete. I mean, look, I'm super excited about Denzel Boston. I'm super excited about Isaiah Bond. Obviously, Casey Concepcion, like we can't wait to see him in the slot. I don't want these guys on the field because they have to be. I don't want these guys on the field because we have nobody else. We traded away the vets and like we're just throwing these guys out there. I want them comfortable. I want them playing fast and playing confident, man. And if that means that we hold on to like if they overtake Jeudy in season and Judy's riding the bench, fine.
That's success.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous success. Then yeah, we can explore moving Jerry Jeudy because I'm sure if Jerry Judy's not playing going into a contract year, he's going to want to get moved, and they'll do that stuff behind the scenes. But I certainly don't believe that any of these guys, as good as they look, they're not going to. Jerry Judy's a good player, guys. He's a good, very, very talented guy. He's been disappointing, no doubts there. And that's why he's making 16-something million a year and not 20-something or 25-something. They're paying him to be a high-end number 2. That's exactly what he's paid to be. So I get it, And I know, Phil, I know you're not saying he's bad. I'm not trying to just whatever, because you're one of the reasonable ones. You hear other people that are like, oh, he's trash, just cut him. Like I get sensitive about Jerry Jeudy. He's a good ball player.
You need
back to running backs.
You need, or the Seattle Seahawks. You need so many good football players to win the Super Bowl. You need a ton.
Yep.
Get all the good football players you can get.
Yep. Look at the Eagles last year. When the Eagles won that Super Bowl, that was one of the most impressive rosters we've seen in a really long time. And in less than a year, it took a step back, a sizable step back. You never know when play is going to fall off, when health is going to be a factor. You never know. So, yeah, stack talent, keep talent as long as you can, as long as it's affordable. All right, so we know the top 3 running backs, right? We know Quinshawn, we know Dylan Sampson, we know Raheem Sanders. Please relax, dude. You're killing me. How about the two undrafted rookies, right? We got TJ Harden. And then what about Devon Booth? Is he Mississippi State?
Yes.
I I kind of like his highlights a little bit, man. He's not as big. Obviously, what's his name? TJ Harden's a bigger, like more well built. I guess Booth is a little more like Dylan Sampson, but he's got nice. He flashes a little bit.
He one of the elements that they like about him is Brian Storer talked him up as a potential return guy. I can't say it, between him, Harden, and Amani Marshall, I feel like there's a pretty solid tier break between those guys and the top three. Obviously, Quinshon Judkins is number one with a bullet.
Yeah.
Finally got to see Dylan Sampson, and I am so excited about Dylan Sampson. He just does so many things where I'm just like, I cannot wait. And then the guy I continue to really like, can't wait till the Pats come on, Jareem Sanders, because he just catches the ball really well. He does a lot of things where you're just like, this is really useful. And obviously, with the offensive line situation last year, it matched his style of play, which is he's going to run very hard and get out of his way because he better create his own hole. So, yeah, I'm curious to sort of see if the Browns are satisfied or if they want to bring in if they mix it up a little bit and bring in another running back at the bottom of the depth chart. Money Marshall's interesting. He does a couple things useful. I think he catches the ball okay. I think he's got decent twitch. But again, to me right now, and obviously this could change, I think the first three are very clearly ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. Well, and I always look at the roster and kind of mess with things because there's certain positions that are a little more loaded. It's like, are they going to keep a 50 end or a 50 tackle, or are they only going to keep 5 linebackers? Like stupid stuff like that. But the 4 running backs thing, I don't think they would keep 4 backs. You know?
It depends. Obviously, there's a conversation to be had there. Depends what that looks like. Are they keeping somebody they are calling a fullback? Right now, I would say that's unlikely.
Yeah.
They really want Carson Ryan to win that job as far as being the fullback and then being able to do the other tight end things and being the H-back, so to speak. So obviously, if you have a real fullback, that's going to take up a roster spot somewhere. I think they'd prefer not to have to do that. But to your point, right now, based on what I'm looking at, I would think 3 and then practice squad guys, you're pretty confident you're going to get at least a couple of them to the practice squad. Maybe you find somebody else on a waiver that you like. Not unlike what you had last year, where you're like, yep, great, sign me up. But I think between the tight ends and the receivers, however that's going to shake out, and I think the receivers are going to make them keep 6.
Yeah.
There's just too many.
Yeah.
Tight ends is going to be curious to see how that works out, but at least 4, and that could include the fullback element.
Yeah.
Unless keep another extra guy. Certainly seems likely. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you're always playing around with the numbers, but to me, especially for running backs, I think you can find guys to stash on the practice squad and then be happy with what you get in terms of being able to call somebody up, so long as your line is able to do the job, essentially get the fisherman type effort where when the Browns had a really good line, he could come up and get 100 yards, against Denver in the rain, and you'd be like, great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's obviously the goal there. Speaking of offensive line, I feel like I'm kind of excited about one element of it because we talked about it a little bit, and we talked about Elton Jenkins from day one. Is he going to be a center? Is he going to be a guard? Well, first team O-line came out today, and he was a center, and at right guard we had KT Leviston, which I'm excited about. I want to see him get a real shot at this. I love his power. I love that addition to the offensive line there. Look, we talked about all offseason. Spencer Fano, left tackle, Zion Johnson, left guard, Elton Jenkins, KT Leviston, Titus Howard. That sounds good. That sounds good in theory. We've got 2 good pass protectors. Both guys are a little more finesse at tackle. Obviously, Fano's tough, and he can be a factor in the running game. but he's not an overly large man. Okay, so he's going to be a lot of a lot like Joe Thomas. He's going to be a technician in the running game rather than a mauler, at least in my opinion.
I think a lot of what Fano is going to be able to do is he's going to be on you too fast, and it's going to be quick power. It's going to be momentum in a hurry, and that's going to be the element that allows him to look more powerful than you otherwise might think. Like, he may surprise you because he's on you right now, and if you're slow off the ball, the type of guy who may take your wind because he's that fast. We'll see. The KT Leviston thing is certainly interesting. Obviously, we've got to see if he can sort of hold up against a real pass rush and all that stuff. But certainly, he and Titus Howard are very large human beings. KT Leviston flashes explosive power, which certainly is intriguing given what they want to do in the run game, that he can potentially be a guy who opens up holes. And then you got two guys, or potentially three, depending on how they want to do it, from the left, being able to up and through the hole, skip pull or however they want to do it, to hit guys in space. Like, that's a good formula. Now, we got a whole lot of KT Leviston today. I'm curious to see if that remains tomorrow. I suspect it's going to be different because last week we got a whole lot of, the last Wednesday, we got a whole lot of Jack Conley.
I was just going to ask you about him. What can you tell us about Jack Conley? Because it's interesting. He's getting some high level reps.
He has gotten reps at left guard, right guard, and right tackle so far. He got both left and right guard today. Like, he was at points second team left guard or second team right guard, depending on how they did it. But, I think they just like who he is as a fit for them. The front office, the people I'm familiar with there were really excited they got him last year. Mm-hmm. And the fit with the new coaching staff has been a really good one for him, between Munkin and Warhop, and they sort of like their mentality sort of gel. And I went back and I found some tape of him at Boston College, and he's a BC lineman. I love BC linemen. They're tough, they're physical, they want to run block, and that's what he wants to do. So, to the point of, obviously, all the whole thing's going to revolve around where do they end up with Elton, and Parker Brailsford's going to figure into that equation. And if he can play at center, that obviously puts Elton at right guard. But wouldn't shock. I mean, I don't think they're certainly committed one way or the other. Elton got to this point, for days we have been at practice, has gotten exclusively center reps. So now they've got all these guys are sort of rotating through at right guard and sort of figuring out who can really do this, and probably trying to, either rule in guys or rule out guys before they get to camp, put the pads on, and really turn these guys loose in terms of the physicality piece.
All right. Well, what Luke Whippler was back at practice today in a limited capacity.
Yeah, he was also back. He also did some stuff last Wednesday as well. They're sort of easing him back in. Didn't do anything competition, I don't think.
Yeah,
I'm fairly sure on that. But yeah, I mean, for Luke Whippler, obviously you want to be smart, you want to be patient in terms of taking care of the health. But I'm sure if
you get on the field, though,
you're also sitting there going, I gotta be able to get out there and compete, because I don't want to, get passed over or become a forgotten man, or they just sort of move on without me. So I'm sure that has to be incredibly frustrating for him. People, the whole that take that toll, that mental toll on guys who, get very in their own head, or think people are looking at them and assuming that they're just not playing because they're soft or whatever. And maybe a guy who's desperately trying to get out there, and the coach, the team's basically saying, no, we don't want you to go, and all this other stuff. So I imagine it's got to be very stressful for him, but obviously he's got to be hoping that, by the time they get to training camp, he's up and running so he can get out there and put his best foot forward. And hopefully nobody falls on that foot, which keeps happening to this poor guy over and over.
Yeah. Amen to that. How about Austin Barber? Where are they working him? Is he doing the swing thing and doing both sides backup tackle? Or they strictly have him on right? Is he playing guard at all?
I have not seen him play guard.
I
Uh,
actually kind of like that. I mean, if
I
you want him to get comfortable, leave him at one spot and let him develop.
Yeah, I mean, look, Todd Monken has said they love him at tackle.
Yeah.
That's where they want him to be. Now they've also said he's going to need to play guard if that's the case. And what they might be doing, and we'll see, is they might be rolling through all these other options between, you know, Conley and KT and some of these other guys, and getting them all looks at guard now, and then maybe when they get to camp, hopefully one Austin Barber will be pretty comfortable at tackle, and then maybe as they pare this thing down, maybe then they will give him a look at right guard, to be determined. At least right now, everything I'm seeing with him is at tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I like that. I understand the desire to put guys all over the place and see what they can do. And obviously, sometimes needs trump everything else, and you've got to put guys out there because you just have to have them. But I like what I'm seeing in terms of what seems to be a plan specifically for the young lineman. Ford, obviously, I don't think he's anything but a center, and Fano's not like moving around. Um, Not that he can't, but they're not doing that. So it seems like those three guys are largely in place as to where they are now. Boston Barber, super, really, really athletic. All that stuff stands out, and then the physicality piece is to be determined.
How's well, I mean, it's almost a stupid question, but Fano looks the part, right? Big, athletic, just but I mean, it's so limited in what they're actually doing. So, is there anything to really glean from what the line is doing? Is there any sort of competition where it's like you get any read on this stuff?
Yep, Jared Verse is good. Jared
Yeah.
Verse is good at football, and Spencer Fano's going to have to adjust because.
Okay. Well, can you elaborate? Is that just like because Verse is so powerful? This is what I'm talking about, Pete.
So yeah, I mean,
what
like
I'm talking about.
there was at least one situation where, again, it's not full go, but they are competing,
Yeah.
and Verse was able to go through his upfield shoulder and get obviously he veered away, but probably would have had a sack if he wanted. So this is the thing: Spencer Fano's got to adjust to real big boy football, and he hasn't played. Of course, he hasn't played like Jared Verse.
Yeah.
So we need him to take the sort of the punches that come with that. And now we've got to see how does he sort of absorb them, get back up, and get better.
Well, and that's the whole thing too, though. These guys are rookies. Like this is the worst they're going to be. They're only going to get better. They're only going to get stronger, provided they stay healthy. All that sort of thing. Fano's going to give up sacks. He's going to get his ass beat from time to time every Sunday. Like he's going to be facing the Jared Verses of the world, and that stuff's going to happen. Like that doesn't discourage me. And
well,
if anything, I'd say it's good that Verse is a dog like that.
What makes it interesting is Spencer Fano's athleticism is not questioned. Yeah. He's going to get out and get two guys. The entire question most people had was, how's he going to take on big boy power and a real bull rush and a real club and a real rip and all that stuff. And so Jared Verse in that sense is the perfect person to do it because virtually no one's better at it than him.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, like again, and this is the ebb and flow. Yeah, because you don't obviously it'd be great if Spencer Fano walked out there and he was Joe Thomas and he's the greatest tackle ever immediately. Yeah. But you're gonna lose at some points. And you got to figure it out. And I'm sure at some point he's gonna get the better of Verse when we get out in pads and do some of those things, and his ability to reach and athleticism, all those things are gonna pay off. But like today, unpadded and all that, but he had to he I think Verse got the better of him, as you might. I mean, I don't think that's terribly surprising.
No, I would expect it. A Pro Bowl veteran power player versus a rookie left tackle who needs to get stronger. Like we've known that. That's that doesn't discourage me. I mean, hell, I remember Joe Thomas's first game at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Charlie Fry got sacked 5 times in the first quarter and a half of that game. Then he got benched for Derek Anderson. I'll never forget that, because for that first quarter and a half, I was like, we should have taken Brady Quinn at 3. It was a wasted pick. I'm telling you, it is what it is, man. These guys are going to fail. They're going to fall flat on their face and look bad from time to time. It's the NFL. It does it to everybody, you know?
Yeah. Look, it's a learning process. So they've got a lot. They've got iron sharpens iron and all that. So I expect he's only get. And the other thing that when it comes to offensive linemen that people don't understand, like shoulder pads are a huge difference.
Yeah.
It makes such a big deal when you're an offensive lineman to have shoulder pads. And that's not that the offensive lineman is wearing shoulder pads. It's that the defensive lineman is wearing shoulder pads. Mm-hmm. Defensive will never be more slippery than when they can tape down their crap, their jerseys and all that, and be extremely sleek.
When you Miles would wear like an adult small jersey. That's how they operate, man.
So, when they've got surface area, it makes it easier for those the linemen to get hands on and block. So like I don't get too caught up in that. My biggest thing with Fano is he's got excellent feet. He's in the right spot, and now it's just a matter of doing it. So, there are people who will sit here and go, "Oh man, Spencer Fano's getting beat. He must be terrible." No, it's welcome to football. It's life. It's really difficult to be good. So work through it.
All right. Well, let's shift over to the defensive side of the ball. And this is from Humdinga. This is an interesting question. Is Grant Delpit holding in, Pete?
We have no idea. They were not going to give up that information, whether it was an injury or that he's just not ready or they're easing him in. He was out there watching and all that stuff. I mean, it doesn't seem like he'd be a hold in, but
if you were his agent, what would you advise him to do? Going into the last year of his deal, technically, like as of right now, I would say he's on a very favorable deal, very team favorable deal, because the market is kind of spiked on him. I mean, I get that. I mean, I certainly don't want him to hold out or hold in or anything like that. But I mean, realistically, it could.
A lot would depend on, is there a conversation happening?
Yeah.
I assume a deal is going to get done and they're going to extend him. That's been Jack Duffin's contention. That is my contention. I've looked at the contract and it's a little, I don't know nearly as much about him as Jack does, but his contract sets up as a contract you want to extend.
Yeah.
So on some level, you could certainly make the argument of, look, we're not going to put ourselves through unnecessary wear and tear, especially for, obviously wasn't there most of the OT, didn't participate in any OTAs. So you're sitting there going, okay, like, maybe that's part of it. And then maybe the mini camp is an extension of that. And you're basically trying to get this done before training camp. The other part of that is, maybe that's a thing. And the Browns are also kind of like, well, we don't think it's the end of the world either, because we've got a whole bunch of young safeties we want to evaluate and we're cool getting them reps. So I don't know, like without sort of a sense of, hey, there's a conversation happening, we're just trying to work out the details, or this is an effort to start the conversation, that would have a big impact as far as how I view it. But it wouldn't shock me if it was necessarily a quote unquote hold in. I just wouldn't call it. I just doubt it would be a contentious one.
Okay. I wanted to throw this one up. So Phil, Mason Graham's going to be the same as Joe Thomas. Underwhelming in year one, but Hall of Fame level year 2 and beyond. Really thinks folks are sleeping on Mason's potential this season. I would agree with so much of that, Phil. The only thing I'm going to push back on, just the slightest bit, I don't think he was underwhelming as a rookie. I think he was really damn good. And the reason I say that is, I mean, he was an important cog in one of the best defenses in football in their defensive line. I mean, even Miles pointed out how instrumental he was into so much of his success last year. Defensive tackle's so hard because you're so bogged down. You are in the muck. You are in a car accident every single snap. And I thought he flashed. I thought he made plays. I thought the run defense was good all year. I thought the pass rush was tough all year. The half a sack for, coming out of that defense, the attacking defense. Yeah, that's slightly disappointing, but I feel like he flashed all year. He was disruptive. Pete, you could probably articulate this a hell of a lot better than I can.
I thought the first half of his season was relatively slow. I thought the second half was really strong, and then he broke his rib.
Yeah.
If you go through before he broke his rib in the second half of the season, he was on a tear. His relative to pressures, I think he was third or fourth in the draft class overall with pressures, and that's including all the edge guys. So Abdul Carter had more pressures than Mason Graham, as you might expect. But he was like third or fourth. Now, you can sit there and go, well, Mason played all that steps. That is true. His run stop rate was really high as a rookie, so that part was really good. He has such good habits in terms of how he plays the game, in terms of how he hustles, in terms of him tracking down things like screens or plays going to the sideline. It's a shame that he's in a walking boot right now. I don't know what the extent of that is, and so he can't practice. So because he's I think he's an excellent practice player as well. What we have seen, again, unpadded, so it's only so much you can take. He looks really explosive. He looks really twitchy. He looks like he's very comfortable in. Obviously, he acknowledged the fact that like the adjusting to the attacking front took a little bit of time for him initially, as it does for a lot of guys. There's not worried about it at all anymore. It feels like second nature. He feels really good about it, and you watch him. He's slippery. He's quick. I think he's going to be really, really good this year. And this is one of those deals where shortest path to the quarterback is defensive tackle, and Malik Collins will eventually be back. You've got Mike Hall, who looks pretty good with what he's doing. So there's going to be a lot of interior pressure from this group, and obviously they've got this weird the dynamic that they've had, but obviously it changed a little bit. Myles Garrett was a large human being, but not necessarily a power guy. So now they've got speed and a little bit of power on the inside, mostly speed, and then on the outside they have the big Hulk hands. So that creates an interesting setup. The team is really excited. Everybody I've talked to is really, really excited about Mason Graham and what he can be. The whole thing with being getting into your second year as a defensive tackle when you have a chance of when you are adjusted, you have gotten a little bit of grown man strength on you and just accustomed to how the league works. I think it makes all the difference in the world. So I'm very high on where Mason Graham is going. I've seen a couple places like project him as a breakout player this year, understandably. But I think people who think he was underwhelming last year, I understand why they think that. I also think it's a bit overstated.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's early enough that we should be fine in 6 weeks, but are you sounding any alarm bells with Mason Graham in a boot, Malik Collins coming off a surgery, and then Mike Hall was, he wasn't carted off, but he was helped off the field, right? He's in a knee brace or something.
No, it sounds like with Hall,
that was precautionary.
Well, yes, but also he wasn't wearing a brace at the time when I think it's been described as a strain or something that I think scared him more than anything. But regardless, since then, last week he had a big white leg brace thing on that he did everything with and looked good. And then today is a black brace thing on. So I don't know if they're trying to figure out the right thing for him. Yeah. But if that makes his knee feel good and make it work, that's fine. And ultimately, as far as, I will be worried about Mason Graham if he's not practicing in training camp. I presume he'll be up and running. It's certainly a long time before we get there. And hopefully he gets out of that boot fast enough where he can do a little bit of training and feel good before he gets to training camp. Malik Collins is obviously the one to watch. The very, very indefinite timeline with him, but he's just really, really good. So as long as he's right, I'm not too worried about it. But I would argue that they are, and I think just defensive line in general, just a little thin.
Yeah.
And part of this is because I'm extraordinarily greedy about defensive line talent. And if all these people are like, well, if the Browns were to take Sorsby or find another quarterback, we could take Jeremiah Smith. And I'm sitting there going, I am taking an edge. I will take a defensive pass rusher. I'm taking the kid from Texas, and you all can go to hell while I do it.
You take Texas kid over Dylan Stewart?
Yes. Based on what I've seen at this point, yes, the metrics are unbelievable for Simmons versus Dylan Stewart, who's a freaky dude, but just it's not put together yet. It's not consistent. And with Simmons, it would be a really fun compliment to what he's done. It's just an incredible pressure numbers, the pressure rate, pass rush run rate, sacks, all the things you want. He's really, really good. And obviously that Texas team is just stupidly loaded. So he's one of the guys I'm looking forward to. There are a lot of guys. This could be a fun edge rush class for me in
Yeah.
general. So yes, I'm getting fully ready to be greedy as hell when it comes to defensive line.
Amen to that. How about oh God, what was I gonna say? Um oh, it was defensive line related too. Son of a beast thing. Oh, okay. So the Browns were in talks with the Giants about Dexter Lawrence, right? Weren't we kind of poking around that whole deal? Wasn't like we offered like a second rounder or something like that? I feel like I remember something along those lines.
I have no idea. It wouldn't shock me if they've called other teams about. We've seen them talk to a bunch. Look, Andrew Berry talked to everybody.
Yeah.
Andrew Berry wants to know what everything costs.
Well, that's my only point to bring this up though is do you think in these next six weeks they're gonna explore another edge rusher and then maybe another D tackle, especially if maybe Mason's injury is a little more that we're being led to believe. I feel like if you're willing to invest, even and I get that he is when healthy. Dexter Lawrence is a marquee player, and if you were to acquire him for your second round pick, that's a hell of a deal. Like I get all that, but it is intriguing to me that they thought highly enough of that position to invest the second rounder, but then they didn't touch it, right? Because they had added Kalia Davis already at that point.
Who was
And
not
then,
practicing.
Yeah. And you say he's not practicing?
Did not practice today. So as I said, they were really thin.
I'm trying to remain positive, Pete.
Yeah,
But you're setting off all the bells, buddy.
I mean, it didn't look. He was hanging around. It wasn't like
Yeah.
he was something where I could see a cast or
Yeah,
something.
no, I got you.
Look minor. Look, absolutely, I'm looking around. I think you use OTAs, you use rookie camp to evaluate the young players you have and see if there's an answer there. I think this applies to every position of depth on defense. Corner, it's not so much safety. I think safety's got more guys.
Yeah.
Corner, linebacker, and defensive line, both edge and tackle, absolutely. And you come out of this mini camp and you then reevaluate. You now have to be very honest with yourself. Do we have what we need, or do we need to go out there? And there are a bunch of free agents still sitting out there. Obviously, trades could be something that they look into. Now, obviously, in terms of trades, I wouldn't make it necessarily likely because the Browns will have a very specific type of player, age, and all the things that all the elements that they want to fit into what they're building. Like they're not going to trade draft. I wouldn't think, short of an emergency situation like we had with Cam Robinson, they're not going to sit there and go, we're going to trade picks to get a 30-something player.
Yeah.
If they're trading, they're trying to get somebody who's, career still in front of them, a young player. So that also makes it less likely, but there are free agents, and free agents are a different deal. You're finding guys that can complement your team now. And the added benefit is if you're able to get some of these guys, let's use Joey Bosa as an example because it's not going to happen. Well, let's say for the sake of argument, Joey Bosa is like, I'd love to play for the Cleveland Browns, and I'll sign a deal. And the Browns basically set up a contract where they agree to pay a whole lot of money up front. And then, hey, maybe the season's not going great, and teams are calling and they're looking for edge help, and the Browns set up the contract where they absorb so much the cap hit. Now Joey Bosa costs peanuts for a team that could theoretically make a run. Now you can trade him for something. So there's a world where that happens. Obviously, I don't think it would be Bosa for that, but there are guys where I could see that being the thought process. And
we did that with Tryon Shoyinka last year.
Yes, that would certainly be an example. And obviously, they signed him much earlier in the process.
Yes,
their big signing on the start of free agency. But yeah, there are a bunch of guys out there that, you know, I'm not interested in going to mandatory minicamp. I'll show up when I'm getting paid and the
I
whole
was
thing.
gonna say, isn't that like the bulk of these vets out there that know that they can play in the league and they're just basically waiting for all the crappy summer jobs to end so they can just jump onto a team in camp?
Yeah. I mean, look, why put yourself at risk of a major injury and you don't have to, and you're not getting paid for it. So you wait
Yep.
till training camp and you get to work out in your own time and all. There's so many benefits to why you wouldn't do that. Now, obviously, the risk is time comes and the team's still not calling you. Now you can't get a job. So
Yeah.
pros and cons, but a lot of the guys out there will get jobs, and these teams are just trying to evaluate their young options and see if they've got anything.
All right. Um, what's what have you not necessarily picked up, but I mean you're down there, you're talking to a lot of people. What are you hearing about the defensive coaching staff? You
Well,
know,
it's
I mean,
interesting to listen to that. There's some stuff in the rumor central that I in a conversation I had, but like the stuff that I've sort of talked about and hinted at is like Mike Rutenberg energy all the time. He demands it from himself, his assistant coaches, and players on the field, and they respond to it in terms of how he is. Jim Schwartz, very demanding. He's also very much on you when you do things wrong. Now we will. I'm sure that we will get to a point where Mike Rutenberg has to do that. Uh, but you know, anybody who's been around this team has seen or heard Jim Schwartz dress down somebody on the field. Mike Rutenberg, to this point, that's not how he's operating. Um, but he's enthusiastic. I think players sort of gravitate to what he does. But everything I've seen from him, there, I'm excited about, just in terms of how he coaches and what I see as a coach. And then just what I think he wants to do scheme wise is really interesting because yes, they are keeping a lot of the things that they had from before, but they are clearly putting in things that are going to make this defense unique to it's Rudenberg's going to have his own stamp on this, whether it's the split high safeties that we're seeing far more than we ever did before, the blitz packages that they're trying to throw out there and all that stuff. But yeah, he's really intriguing. And you know, it's one of the reasons I desperately, you know, we'll see how it happens. Maybe in 3 months I will hate Mike Rutenberg, but like he's one of the reasons where I'm sitting there going, man, I hope Muckin can make this thing work because I'd hate to lose that guy.
yeah, no, for sure. And that's the intriguing thing for me with the loss of Miles. Look, Jared Verse is an excellent player. He's not Miles Garrett as a pass rusher. He's just not. And the way that
Nope.
Miles would not just close the gap between himself and the quarterback in under 3 seconds, but he was such a gravitational pull player that it freed up everything. I feel like they're going to have to blitz more.
Oh,
Like you
no
just have
question.
to.
They are blitzing more.
Yeah, which I'm cool
Yeah,
with.
way
I'm
more.
super intrigued by that. Especially we
Yeah.
got a couple of missiles at linebacker, dude. Schlesinger and Williams can both run and they can both hit.
Yes. Uh, and Mike Rutenberg's success and his background, particularly if you go back to the Jets, linebackers coach.
Mm-hmm.
Williams all pro with Mike Rutenberg as a linebackers coach. Um, Beyond that, you know, in terms of the blitz scheme and stuff like that, yeah, they're going to send pressure, all kinds of that. And part of that is you get Verse and you have Alex Wright and you have Zan McGuire because those guys really cater well to stunts and setting clean lines for your blitzes. So those are good, and they've obviously added more safeties that can theoretically be guys that can add to the blitz. So certainly that's going to be a big part of what he does. He's trying to disguise coverage. He's trying to fool the offense. Now, as I said, I gave you an example today where Schuler Sanders did what he was supposed to do. Recognized blitz, found the one-on-one, took the deep shot, hit Casey Concepcion, even though it was OPI, but he did the thing you want him to do. So, you know, obviously this puts you at risk of potentially getting exposed. Now, it wasn't like the guy was, you know, wide open or anything. He was
Yeah.
one-on-one, but it's one-on-one coverage. So now you're taking your shot there that he's going to be the guy's going to be able to make that play. So that part is certainly an element to what we're going to see from this group. Now, my whole thing, my stated goal for this is do all that stuff. If you can just eliminate the breakdowns, which it drove me nuts with Jim Schwartz, the amount of breakdowns they had. If you just clean those up, I think this defense will be really, really good. So that part is what I'm sort of waiting to see, that we don't sit here and go, oh my God, why is that guy wide open running with nobody on him and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask you this one. Because I certainly don't struggle with it, but I wonder, do you think who do you think takes more snaps? Okay. Miles Harden as a slot corner, whether it's, Buki Watson or Winston Reed or Justin Jefferson, an outside linebacker, or a third safety.
Well, I would order it. Third safety, Miles Harden, linebacker.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Who would be your slot safety in that scenario? Would you move Hickman down? Would you move Delpit down, or would that be E-Man?
This is sort of my question to be answered. I don't know that they have that guy.
Yeah.
Delpit could certainly do it. Delpit, like, the question then is, do I really want Delpit to do it? So, like, I perhaps like him better for that than Hickman or E-Man, though E-Man hasn't practiced in a little bit. So, I don't know how well he's going to be able to do it. But just based on what I've watched of McNeil Warren in college, he's a guy that needs to stay on top of who he's covering in order to make it work. Now, the Browns may be perfectly happy with that, and they may include some stuff where they're, have a linebacker potentially undercutting some of those things to punish teams that want to try to go that route. But in terms of skill set of guy who really thrives in the slot, certainly Delpit's the best. And obviously part of that can be, you can just say, screw it. We're going to have split high safeties and just put Grant Delpit down and say, go get the tight end, as opposed to having him deep and then switching. Now, some of this may depend on, the circumstance. Are they going to roll their safeties? In which case those roles are going to change on a given play and somebody else has to step in to do it. Some of this depends on how they want to utilize them. Are they playing, a variation of man where maybe how the offense attacks you determines who you're going to pick up? Some sort of match type concepts for people who understand what that means, or quarters or stuff like that. Or are they just going to say, screw it, and you're going to play some variation of zone? So we can keep you face forward. We're not asking you to sort of turn around, flip your hips, and do all this stuff. Or is it a mix of those things? I don't know how that's going to work. Just athletically, the guy I think who suits up the best to do sort of the slot nickel stuff as a safety would be Donovan McMillan. I haven't really seen him get a chance to do that, but just looking at his agility and three cone, that sort of suggests he has the hips to do it. And the other part about it is, do the Browns view Miles Harden purely as a corner, or is he sort of a hybrid player for them? Because he's 200 pounds. He's not.
Yeah, he's well built.
So is he sort of an extension of that room, or, so we'll see. Because we haven't had enough of these guys on the field at the same time, there's some questions as to what that's really going to look like. But they have a clear goal of having a whole lot of three safety sets in the field.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, look, that's one of the intriguing things about this defense to me. I like all three safeties, right? Like I want to see McNeil Warren on the field as much as possible, but I think Ronnie Hickman's a good player. I think Grant Delpit's a very good player, So it's like the more creative ways they can get these guys on the field at the same time, the better for me. Especially, I mean, I like Miles Harden, and I like the idea of, who our third linebacker could be. But I feel like if you want to go with talent, you go with a third safety on the field. At least with the way the roster is set up, that's just where the talent is right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, some of these are guys who need pads on. Buki Watson's a guy, he needs pads.
He needs pads. He absolutely does.
So, that's one of those questions where clearly a heavy lifting is being put on Quincy Williams and Carson Schwarzenegger. It's who else can fill the roles that they need, and the one that would jump out to you is Sam linebacker. And occasionally, you're going to want a linebacker in there, and a bigger run stopping linebacker. Occasionally, you're going to want to be able to have an old school Sam line up over the tight end. Of the guys they have, Buki Watson certainly would fit the bill now. Or do they just want to say, screw it, we'll get in a 5 front, bring another defensive lineman out there, like put Aiden Huntington over a tight end or something? To be determined, but like certainly there's an appeal with Buki Watson in what he could theoretically be in that. And then he's obviously also the biggest of the group, where everybody else is smaller in varying degrees of sort of light-footed and special teams type players, as opposed to, the boomstick type, which is what Buki Watson can be.
Winston Reed's got a little bit of boomstick to his game.
He does,
Yeah.
but he's just not a very like.
No, it's like 220.
He's not a big human being. Like I think
Yeah.
what he's actually weighs, but he's like listed 225, but he does have a.
Yep. How about the undrafted rookie out of West Virginia, Michael Coates he's making an impact, right? He's turning some heads. He's playing decent.
Well, of course he did. I said he had a good chance to make the team, so of course he's gonna make me look right. He's out there. He's in the mix. He's got a really good athletic skill set that makes sense. They like his hand-eye coordination, his ball skills, and stuff like that.
He's a little older though, right? Isn't he 24?
Yes. Well, no, he's 25, and the reason he's 25 is because he didn't play high school football. He stopped at youth. Didn't play in high school, and then basically decided at like East Mississippi Community College, hey, I'm going to go try out for the team. Made it, played corner and safety, and then eventually transferred to Nevada, where he was really good as a corner, and then transferred to West Virginia, where he was pretty good as a corner. So as a result of not playing high school football, I think in large part, he had to take the long way in college and play a very long time. So look, obviously my spiel on age is unnecessary here. He's an undrafted free agent. I don't care. If he can play football for you, great. So find him and see what he can do. So I think he's a good scheme fit for them. I think he's got man coverage skills, so I'm curious to see what he can do. Again, pads is he good? When it comes to DBs, yes, corner coverage is good and all those things, and obviously it's the most important part. Pads, come on, is he gonna put dudes on the ground? Yeah. Huge question for all these guys. I can't with corners who don't tackle.
Yeah. How about we talked about a little previously, but Donovan McMillan, where have you seen him lining up defensively? Like, is he a second team guy? Is he a third team guy?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to differentiate because the first team isn't there or field. So we are getting this weird hybrid setup where sometimes it's Donovan McMillan and Chris Edmonds are in the back with what is theoretically the ones along with Ronnie Hickman. So it certainly seems like those guys, again, for where we are at, they are getting looks. Mm-hmm. The Browns feel good about what they're doing with those looks, not necessarily clear. I'm very high on McMillan as a talent. I'm curious to see if Edmonds can sort of turn it on this year as a guy that sort of was picked as a developmental project that he was hoping to turn the light on. We shall see. Again, these are things where pads make a big difference. Can you put these guys in the ground? Edmonds had a little bit of power to him, but just by virtue of Grant Delpit's not out there or out there watching, E-Man watching, that some of these guys are getting what are about to be first team reps, which is fine. They're getting looks against the talented receivers this group has, but what are they doing with it? Obviously the defense as a whole sort of took it on the chin today a little bit. We'll see if they bounce back tomorrow. And there's been other days where those guys have been, the defense with those guys in the lineup has been very successful.
So I wanted to ask you about this. I think it was Humdinger a little bit earlier mentioned something about Monken. Yeah, right here. Did you catch any of this? And would you agree with this assessment?
No.
Okay. Because I did not hear the quote, and I just wanted to run that by you and see where that was. I'll have to look at that quote myself. I'd be surprised if I haven't we just heard them vehemently against moving on from Denzel,
Yes.
especially with how thin that position is. I would throw my shoe at the television if they traded Denzel
You
now.
better not, because you might be playing corner.
Yeah, well, I said my shoe. I wouldn't hurt
No,
myself.
you need it. You got to be
ready to go.
That's the problem. Like, hey, we're going to trade the guy, and we have nobody to replace him. Okay, good plan.
Nobody. We're hoping our 25-year-old undrafted rookie can play. Like we can't trade Denzel.
Like D'Angelo Ross is the default one right now across from Tyson Campbell, and there are times where he makes plays. There are also a whole lot of times where he's the guy getting picked on, and there's no pass rush and all this stuff. But like you're sitting here going, man, I don't know, and you sit there and go, you do the conversation in your head. Well, he's getting torched, but it's good that the rookies are the ones doing it. Well, it's bad because the defense needs to be really good for this team, but it's good that we're seeing what we hope is development. I just don't see it. And obviously, Denzel could be saying things behind closed doors that are different. I thought it was important, if it's meaningful, that he said he wanted to play here, he wants to be here. So that stuff. Look. He
could have been very vague. He could have just been like, "Hey, I just want to play football. I try not to mess with it. Blah blah blah." Yeah.
I've done some cursory research, just looking around. One, Denzel Ward is obviously fantastic for the scheme the Browns want to run, and I have a really tough time finding a place that makes sense. Where you're sitting there going, "Okay, yeah, this totally makes sense why they would trade him." Like, what did the Chiefs do? As I said they would do, they brought back the dude they traded to the Titans.
L'Jarius Sneed. Yep.
So all of a sudden, you went from, obviously, McDuffie's a phenomenal, really good player, and they trade him. Then they draft Mansour-Delane, and they bring back their dude who is really good for them, and obviously traded to the Titans. It's really difficult to find a place where you're sitting there going, Denzel is an easy trade. I think that the scenario that makes sense is similar to the one I've talked about. You go into the season, you hope things go well. If things don't go well, and you get to the trade deadline, maybe, obviously Denzel has to stay healthy, and to his credit, the last 2 years he's missed a combined 3 games. If he's healthy, and there's a team that maybe had an injury, or maybe they're in a spot where they weren't sure they were going to be there, and all of a sudden they are going, hey man, we could really use a Denzel Ward, and only for part, we're not getting for the whole season, only part of the season, or even though that's the majority, and they might be desperate. I still cannot believe the Buffalo Bills gave up as much as they did for Amari Cooper. I am grateful.
Yep.
But like, I think if you were really trying to move Denzel Ward, that would be the time to do it, because you might get a deal you did not expect. But other than that, they need all hands on deck on this unit. They don't have the depth. They didn't draft anybody. Yes, they have some undrafted rookies, but like, it's a really sketchy. We're not coming out. I'm not coming on here every day, and you're not hearing reports every day. Wow, check out this undrafted rookie. Looks like he can start. It's okay. There's some guys out here. We'll see what they can do, and so that's not a great situation to trade him.
Yeah, so Ian Coleman has put up a couple posts, and Ian, I agree with you. I love the young core of this team. I love how close they seem. I think that, I'm not an overly religious guy, but I love the fact that the Carson Schlesinger, baptism and all that stuff. Like, I love that stuff. I love that Shador was there. I like that stuff. I think that's great. And I think this team, and not just that, I feel like the community needs to kind of tap into the likable, personable side of the Browns again, because ever since we made the trade in 2022, there's been like this kind of like this dark rain cloud level of ick over the organization, and I would just like to see them embrace the young guys and all this other stuff. Man, they're all high character kids. I don't know, man. I agree with you completely. I'll disagree about trading Delpit though. Delpit's still look, he's on the last year of his deal. He's a bargain right now. So if you're trading him to save money, I think that's a poor choice. And if he's going to leave, you're probably going to get a comp pick that is at the same level, if not a little bit better than what you're going to get via trade. It's just the way the league is, man. Personally, Pete, what's your take on that? What would a Delpit trade look like for you?
I have no interest in trading. I have no idea. Like, he's certainly valuable by virtue of
Yeah,
what he's doing right now. What does that really equate to? I don't know. But like, what is going on right now? A bunch of teams have added all kinds of tight ends, and what is Grant Delpit really good? Taking away the team's best tight end. Like, he is, in terms of like what the NFL is doing, it's like prime Grant Delpit uh, timing to be ready to get a new contract, because the league is basically saying Grant Delpit is everything teams want. So,
yep,
also the reason where I'm not sitting here going, I'm in no hurry, because this is where the league is going, and the Browns are not like going away from that.
yep.
So look, I'm curious to see what Ronnie Hickman does. I'd love them to prove me right, or not, well, prove that it's worth keeping him longer term. But I hope they get an extension with Grant Delpit done, and then having Man be good. And then if Hickman goes elsewhere, if that's the scenario, they might need to go get another safety
Yeah.
and get a pure fit for that potentially nickel role if somebody else doesn't sort of jump into it. But yeah, Grant Delpit really good for the locker room. I think he's a good barometer for the team, and I'm very curious. This is the other thing that's sort of not a big deal, but just sort of something that's there. Well, obviously, Myles Garrett was. People wanted him to be a leader, and obviously he was a spokesman quite a bit, even though he's really just out for his own best interest most of the time. Joel Bitonio was the spokesman of the team. Both those guys are gone. Theoretically, some of this is going to fall on Denzel Ward because he's always been there. Grant Delpit talks a decent amount. But is he going to now suddenly, assuming he's extended on a contract, is he going to be a guy you hear a lot more from in terms of how often he's being talked to? Is Carson Schwarzenegger going to be that guy? Alex Wright seems to think he is that guy, or one of those in terms of leadership. And then obviously Jared Verse is going to be a very, very, very big deal in terms of that element. So that's one of those things of a lot of, at least the talking has left the building this offseason, and who fills those voids.
Real quick, Ian. Yeah, I gun to your head. I get it, and you're absolutely right. Especially given the situation, given that we have Hickman, we just drafted E-Man. If you had to trade either one of the corners or Delpit, I might lean Delpit too, just for the way the roster is structured right now. I agree with that completely. Pete, let me ask you something, because we've heard little subtle things about this, but it genuinely seems to me that Miles' impact on the field is it's absolutely irreplaceable. But I don't get the sense that there's a lot of heartbreak in Berea that he's no longer there.
Well, I mean, Alex Wright came out and had a very sort of emotional reaction to it. I mean, that's a guy he's been close to, a guy who's helped him sort of develop and that piece of it as a man, as a player, all those things. But by and large, it's been pretty quiet. Now, some of that may just simply be a factor of out of sight, out of mind. He's not here. Yeah. Some of that might be a factor of he's wanted to be out, and they're just sort of like, okay, well, we're focused on what we're doing, and so cool, good luck, but we're not like, we sort of felt like this was the element of we're just moving on, and we're trying to do our thing, and we're not trying to focus on the negative. Now, would it shock me to find out that the team, when Andrew Berry sort of talked to the team about Jared Verse, they basically kind of suggested maybe don't say a whole lot, and not simply because of the Myles Garrett element, not that they're going to be like saying that would be bad, but that they want to not sort of put Jared Verse in a weird position where it's very awkward for him that he's the guy who has to replace Myles Garrett already, and
Yeah.
that's tough. I don't know if that really happened, and maybe that's stretching it, but yeah, it's noticeable uh, that there isn't a whole lot of reaction to this point, and that may speak to just how far down the road this was for
Yeah.
everybody involved. Now, the beneficial side effect, I guess, in some ways, it's making people, some people, make peace with the trade real fast. That they're basically like, hey, look how happy Miles looks with the Rams and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And
Showed up for OTAs, all that
well,
good
yeah.
stuff.
So I mean, and that part of it, and then the other part of it is, well, Jared Verse showed up and he seems really excited to be here, even though
Yeah.
I appreciate his honesty in terms of talking about being disappointed. I think if he didn't say that, people would sort of be like, of course he's disappointed. But I like that he took everybody through the journey of, yeah, man, this sucks. I really liked where I was. I like my
Yeah.
teammates, my coaches. I like where we were, and I sort of made peace with that fact. And now I get to decide what to do with it. And I want to do what, be great for Cleveland. I want to be a citizen, all this stuff. Great locker room guy. All this, talking about the hard work. So that's this other small piece of this is by virtue of how this thing's sort of been received and all the hype around Myles Garrett and his
Yeah.
reaction. It's made people sort of be like, I didn't really want to trade Myles Garrett, but I'm kind of happy that this thing's sort of over and we can move on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a big part of it for me is because it was kind of looming, the whole rain cloud over the organization type deal. And I feel like we tend to remove the human element of things from a lot of sports situations, but this is a company that had a pecking order, and you had your highest paid, highest profile, best player was given everything that he wanted. He was given a ridiculously, a huge contract that, all that other stuff, and it wasn't enough. And I could definitely see how that has negative ramifications in the locker room. I mean, there's probably 52 other guys that are like, man, I really wish I had, well, besides Deshaun, that wanted Miles' contract. And when he's just not happy, he'll say things about, stuff in press conferences, throwing coaches passive aggressively under the bus, stuff like that. I mean, that's got to be tough, especially when we've been over the fact that he's not a leader in the traditional sense that so many people wanted him to be. And look, he doesn't have to be. All he has to do is play defensive end, and he's the best player on the planet. That's all he has to do. But with those contracts and that stature comes expectations. And I never thought he was that guy.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, look, he's phenomenal. I expect him to be phenomenal for the Rams. For some reason, he's not. They're going to come after him in a way that was never going to happen as long as he was here. So we'll see how that goes. If it comes to that, where he was in some way, there were people who, ignorantly complained about him, but like it wasn't real. Whereas if the Rams don't do what they're supposed to do this year and win the Super Bowl, and everybody's going to be sitting there, man, this was the expectations and all this, and we couldn't get it done. And if he's invisible in a playoff game or something, they lose, and all, So we'll see how that plays out. Whereas the other part with Myles Garrett, I talked about this a little bit with Barry on Gang of Three, is Myles Garrett's not relatable. It's not his fault. He's a god.
Yeah.
You don't relate to Myles Garrett. You sort of look up and go, you're just in awe of him because he basically has superpowers and he can do whatever he wants. He's really smart. He's supremely athletic. He can do, he can leap tall buildings in a single bound, all that other stuff.
He's a real life X-Man. It's a joke. He's a mutant.
And most people cannot, even these other guys who are phenomenal players cannot sort of relate to that. Like they're going, we're in the top 0.5% in the world, and there's such a difference between me and that guy. Did that have an impact? Does that have an impact? Maybe. Jared Verse is very relatable. He's not a guy who just has. He's obviously very talented, but he went to the University of Albany. as a 0-star guy, and then ended up in Florida State, and then obviously went in the first round. He's made well for himself, but he's a guy who's gotten there because he worked his butt off. Not to say that Miles didn't. Let's be clear about that. Miles works very hard,
Yeah.
but in a way that people sort of can relate to Jared Verse and grab onto him. In that, you want to call it a blue collar work ethic or whatever. Jared Verse seems to have that. He seems like, obviously we don't know these guys really, but in just the presence and he feels like a real person with substance behind, and he seems like a good dude. We'll see, you know. But that I think is also an element to this, and obviously, I think not. Jared Verse is a guy who makes it a point to make relationships with his teammates and try to make things better. Again, that may be a thing that's difficult for Miles because everybody's essentially an insect to him, relatively speaking. Not to say he's not a nice guy or whatever. It was like, I'm so much better at this than you. Why can't you do this type thing? Could be exasperating for him on some level. Or
Yeah.
players on this team who have just been flatly unserious, either in their work ethic or off-field behavior or whatever, where you're just sort of like, I don't have the patience for this. So those are potential barriers which I could see being a factor.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting to see how this is all going to play out, because you're right. The Rams are squarely got the bullseye on them right now. They are the absolute favorites to win the Super Bowl, and anything less than that is going to be a horrible disappointment. But it's already a rocky start, Pete. We had Puka Nacua in rehab earlier this offseason. We got Alaric Jackson is now arrested and being charged with some sort of domestic battery. That's horrible. And then Matt Stafford, who needs his left tackle to protect his body, that he was ready to hang it up 5 years ago. He was ready to hang it up before he went to LA for that trade.
The important thing here is that the NFL they really look into this charge and take it super seriously and really set a precedent season.
Yeah, at least. I think 2 seasons, personally.
So,
but all I'm worried about is this one.
Well, it's just look, I have not, other than I saw the headline because you sent it to me. I have no idea what is in this case or anything involved. But we talked, the Rams are not, you do not have a lot of depth on the offensive line. They don't have a lot of depth at receiver. They've obviously got a lot of talent on their team, and their defense should be fine. They'd be able to sustain, but left tackle would be huge for them. And I saw somewhere that the Chiefs and Wanye Morris have mutually agreed for him to seek a trade because he wants to play or some crap. And there's basically
no pass.
Wanye Morris. Would not shock me if at some point he ends up getting traded to the Rams to deal with potential depth, regardless of what happens with the with the Jackson situation. If anything happens, maybe nothing happens. The other thought that came to mind is Blair Jackson may be going down. Cam Robinson may be getting a call here shortly to come in and plug that hole. But
I'd be okay with that.
Again, knowing absolutely nothing about the situation. If he was out for the first 4 games or something, that would be a significant issue for the Rams. They don't have the ability to sustain this. So I know everybody's well, they're going to win the Super Bowl. Look, it could absolutely happen, but man, there are a lot of things that could go wrong for this team that could end that real fast. And if Blair Jackson is out and their left tackle is shaky, and maybe they'll just play max protect for 4 games because they cannot bear the possibility of Stafford gets hit. But other teams may say, screw it. We're going to find a way to hit him even if we get a flag.
Yeah. We're pinning ears back. Hell yeah. Yeah. Look, that's the reality of it. That's the risk that is carried when you do an all-in move like this, And look, I think Matt Stafford is absolutely amazing. It's kind of annoying how good he still is and how high a level he played at last year. But Father Time is undefeated. And this is a guy who absolutely took a beating for years in Detroit. You remember his first 3 years. I think it wasn't until it might have been his third year that he finally was able to put it together and stay healthy. But people thought he was going to wash out of the league because he couldn't stay healthy. It's like broken collarbone for at least his first 2 seasons.
Well, famously, there was a game between the Browns and Lions with one Brady Quinn
Threw 4
against.
touchdowns in that game. He
Yes.
threw a
And
touchdown to Cedric Steptoe in that game, Pete.
Yes. That's how long he's been in the league, that Brady Quinn played in that football game. Matthew Stafford was barely upright and breathing when they won that football game.
Do you remember how they did it? He threw a touchdown with a broken collarbone.
Yeah.
You remember that?
He was barely upright. It was
because who was it?
Oh
my God.
List
it was,
of quarterbacks.
One of the guys that we got from the Jets absolutely destroyed him. Yes. Like it was a cheap hit. It was a dirty hit. It was way too violent. And yeah, he was on the field, literally like wailing, and then got up, was like, I'm okay.
Got up and touchdown. Yeah, the litany of quarterbacks who have had debilitating, awful injuries and then still won the football. Yeah.
Still tried to figure it out. To beat
so to your point, yes, Matthew Stafford has taken a beating, and so long ago, he's been along the league so long that Brady quit. I remember the NFL Network used to do top 10s, and that was one of I don't remember what it was, some quarterback duel that they ranked, and it was those two in that game, which was really fun, and then also still sad that they could.
Well, the only sad thing is how many Clevelanders were like, Brady threw 4 touchdowns. He hung with Stafford. He'll be fine.
Yes. It's not that you won the game. It's how good your quarterback, how functional your quarterback looked.
Yeah. What are the fantasy numbers? 4 touchdowns is good. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I'm trying to think, man. We covered just about everything. I think. Well, okay. How about Harold Fannin? There's been that's another one that he hasn't played a ton, and he had the groin thing at the end of the year. Are they slow playing this and just being super cautious with him, or does he have some lingering soft tissue stuff? Have you heard anything on Fannin?
He didn't have his helmet or anything. He was doing some walkthrough stuff with the tight ends coach a little bit. No, they're not going to tell us anything.
Yeah. I mean, people asking and they're just like,
I mean, you could ask, PR people, and they're basically going to be non-committal because they don't have to give you any info.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like anything's bothering him. Again, you're not seeing anything. He's just sort of hanging around, as was Carson Ryan today. So once again, obviously you want Fannin out there. You want him getting reps because he commands so much attention. He's got so much gravity in this offense, and with they've got receiver and Fannin, that makes this offense significantly better. Having said that, it's another situation where by him not being out there, you get to look at a lot of these guys and see what they can do. Now, I don't know that there's a whole lot there, particularly if Carson Ryan was also, out. But nevertheless, Harold Fannin smiling, all these other things. It's not like he looks bummed or anything else. He's just, again, most likely precautionary. And hopefully he's going to be ready to go by the time they get to training camp and we really hit the ground running.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what is the level of screwed the Browns would be if Harold Fannin is not available?
Probably like a 6. It's like a 6 of screwed because, again, by virtue of what they stumbled into, they've got a lot of really good receivers. Obviously, they'd like to have a tight end presence that can do a whole lot of stuff, especially some of the stuff we're seeing Denzel Boston do, which I did not anticipate. I watched him at Washington do a lot of things that Harold Fannin would do.
Yeah.
So now that he's doing way more than that, especially down the field, they could sort of cobble together some stuff that he could do that fits the Harold Fannin element, but then you can't do the other stuff. So don't get me wrong. There's a world where Harold Fannin's the number 1 overall weapon in this offense.
Yeah.
Again, just by virtue of who's proven anything, and you don't know what you're going to get with Jerry Jeudy, and you'd like to, Certainly seems like they're going to use him a lot. Fan very similarly to how Monken used Isaiah Likely, which was wildly successful. Although, curiously, Fannin had better numbers than Likely's ever had last year. So we'll
Yeah.
see what that really translates to. But yeah, I mean, I could see a world where Fannin is just a huge part of the offensive market share in just terms of everybody's so worried about these guys on the outside that Harold Fannin just gets to eat up real estate in the middle.
So we had who was it? Jeffrey Champion thinks that Fannin might have a sophomore slump. Any take on that? I would lean towards no personally, but I'll let you go first.
Well, I mean, I don't know what that means in terms of if you're saying his numbers might go down by virtue
Well,
of got a whole lot of other things. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
maybe, but is there a compelling reason where he's not going to be as good? No, I mean, I think his usage is going to be more focused than it was last year, and I think by virtue of the fact that they have other pieces in place that can really balance out the offense, that allows him to be very specific in what he's able to do, which could make him better.
Yeah.
And we immediately go, well, there's more mouths to feed. There's more mouths to feed, and by virtue of that, that's going to cause him to, be less effective. Okay, well, the converse element of that is, well, there's a whole lot of guys that other teams have to keep track of, and Harold Fannin, was a guy that at points was not getting anything but less than two guys.
Well, and that's my whole thing too, because Jeffrey, I completely understand that sentiment, and I would agree with you if we were like a pretty good offense last year, and we were pretty standard, pretty solid, middle of the road, and then we added a bunch of stuff. The offense was so bad last year, we couldn't sustain anything. It's like nobody could thrive. So I feel like just sustaining drives and being able to just put together more than just a 3-and-out and punt that they did so much last year. I agree with you. Like his percentage of targets, like he might not have the target share that he had a year ago, but I feel like his targets, he could have less of a target share and his numbers actually go up because he's on the field more. He's getting more opportunities. They're moving the ball. They're getting first downs. There's other guys that are making plays as well, extending drives, stuff like that. And also like the running game should be way more of a factor this year.
God,
I agree with his sentiment. And it's disingenuous to act as though you meant like his talent was going to fall off. I know that's not what you meant, but I feel like it could go both ways.
Well, I mean, yes, instead of you're pulling from one to get to the other, you're taking a bigger, you're changing the size of the slice of the pie.
Yeah.
My mentality is make a bigger pie.
Mm-hmm.
And if the slice is even if the slice is smaller, you may be ending up with more pie, which is ultimately what we'd all prefer. But let's just look at what we saw at the end of last year with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. Harold Fannin was his binky, and it got to a point where teams were like planning for that.
Yep.
And numerous interceptions because Shedeur Sanders didn't see the trap coverage coming because somebody's literally waiting him for to look to Harold Fannin and then jump the route. Well, if you've got all these other weapons, they may not be able to do that. Or maybe Sanders is more equipped where he can, when he's the starter, that he understands what's happening and goes to the other spot. And then teams have to sort of be more aware of what's going on. And hopefully you get more situations where Harold Fannin is able to make plays. And yes, the running game certainly would be a welcome addition to the offense that can hopefully make it easy to get Harold Fannin the ball. So the push-pull element, I understand the thought process, but the Browns have to be thinking in terms of we just got to grow the damn pie. And obviously so much of that's going to be what can the quarterback position do to make this thing work better.
Agreed very, very much. And that's the pie thing is a wonderful analogy. So I don't know if this is allowed or not because it is insider privilege information, but you had a mock draft this week, did you not, sir?
Did.
You did. Can you tell us about said mock draft, or is it something they're just going to have to they're going to have to sign up?
Listen, I had, even though I didn't necessarily include it, I had multiple motives to do this. One, I wanted to take the toys for a test drive.
Yep.
There are a lot of toys, so I wanted to use them. Two, I'm so sick of hearing a Brendan Sorsby and people who are like convincing themselves that not only should the Browns go get him, he's going to prove that even though I think he would get the gate for a year, that he's going to somehow in limited time prove that he's the starting quarterback, and then allow the Browns to then draft Jeremiah Smith or whatever the hell else, which is really interesting to me, considering you need to at least have a top 4 pick to get him, and then apparently be able to be bad enough to be in the top 4, but convince yourself that you have a quarterback, which is preposterous.
He's super talented, though. You don't worry about the gambling thing. That's no biggie.
So,
water under
even though I didn't necessarily specifically mention this, I presented an opportunity cost, which is looking at this next year's draft. And obviously, I had him pick a quarterback. I had him pick Darian Mensah, who I'm really excited about. He's just fun. And some people compare him to Shooter Sanders, and I get it. I just think he does a whole lot of things to his throws where you're just like, man, he makes some tough stuff look easy, and he looks smart, and he carried some bad football. Nobody's overly excited about Tulane. Obviously, I know they had a better year after him by how things went, and then carried Duke to the ACC championship. Like they had talent, but like he was the driving force, which is what I like. Where Arch Manning, nothing to take away from Arch Manning, who's very, very good. The talent is there, and they're sort of desperately waiting for Arch Manning to be that guy to get there. Darian Mensah in 2 years had to be the dude. Won 18 games. Anyway, so I picked Mensah thinking I think people are a little bit low on him. We'll see. One, I think if they don't make the playoffs, Miami's going to riot. I think he's way better than Carson Beck, obviously. I think he has a chance to be better than Cam Ward. The team is absolutely stacked. They play a nothing schedule other than until they get to Notre Dame on the road, which is going to be a game everybody's going to want to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a phenomenal game.
So, yeah, and then the other part with that is there's a whole bunch of people who think who are projecting these redshirt sophomore quarterbacks like CJ Carr from Notre Dame. And I'm just looking at the couch like Darian Mensah is making $10 million this year.
Yeah.
CJ Carr or Drew Mestamaker or the Drake Lindsay. If that money's out there, why the hell would you declare for the draft?
Agreed.
Enjoy college, get paid $1 bazillion and do the thing and get to play. That's the other part is you're guaranteed to play as long as you're not hurt or gambling.
Yeah.
Anyway, so second pick in the first round, which based on the draft machine's odds was
32.
So I took KJ Bolden, who's a safety from Georgia, who would be the nickel if they let Ronnie Hickman go. KJ Bolden's a stud. You look at people who sort of project these things, and they think KJ Bolden's going to be the best safety in college football. Former star guy, he's going to be. He's not Caleb Downs, but he's sort of the next guy in sort of guys you sit there and go, I would put him in a slot defender. He can do all the things. He's really smart, really, really good football player. And I understand, like, people are like, well, you should draft a corner. And I'm sitting there going, I would love to. I drafted based on talent, based on the thing I did. None of the corners that I've seen are like overly wowing at that point. So had I not taken KJ Bolden, I would have taken Trades Green, the tight end from LSU. And the only reason I didn't is because I'm a little bit curious about what he really is. It feels like he's another space tight end. Granted, he's 6'7" and a freak, but I desperately want a real why. And there's a part of you that goes, just get more weapons. Because he's 6'7" and 240 and is a basketball player.
He's a problem. Yeah.
He's very good. And then the second round, I went with Cade Pieper, the guard from Iowa, who's going to play center this year for some reason. He's a little bit light. He was arguably, first team All-American for PFF last year. Most people thought he was the best lineman on the team that Logan Jones was drafted, Jennings Dunker was drafted. Cade Pieper, Mauler, athletic, plays in Iowa, so it's a good scheme fit.
Yeah.
I wanted to finish the line. I think he's really, really good. And then the fact that he may be a great center this year may give you versatility in that I would certainly rather get a right guard with that pick. but having somebody else who could play center or pinch, certainly not the worst thing in the world. And if you have to, he's the center if he's not the right guard. So really good. I'm hoping he puts on a little bit more weight because he's listed at like 290, but nevertheless, very, very good. The third round, I took Tatum Tuioti, who is one of the very, very talented edges from Oregon. Is loaded. Oregon is stupidly loaded on the defensive line. They got dudes all up and down that thing. And Tatum Tuioti is the son of a former Browns assistant coach, whose name escapes me other than Tuioti. And there's a video. They did some video of him talking about his Tatum in his arc, and you see there he is, the coaching, and there's Billy Wynn out there. So he goes back to that era as a quality control guy, I think. This kid, not very twitchy, which is why I think he can be held. There's some people talking about, well, he could elevate himself in the first round. And I get it. Really athletic going forward.
Yeah.
Really, really sound as a pass rusher win rate, pressure rate, all those things are good. He broke out he had led the team in sacks and tackles for loss this past year. Had 5 pass breakups and 2 forced fumbles, like just loaded up the stat sheet.
Disruptive, yeah.
And he's one of all these guys who stayed in college at Oregon, and man, they're really good. So anyway, he's really interesting, and I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a frontline pass rusher, but like all the metrics that I look for are sort of really positive, and could be a guy where you sit there and go, as a role player, because I'm greedy and I will want another defensive in the following year, probably in the first round. Hopefully we nail their quarterback. I want more. Anyway, 4th round, they had 3 picks. I don't know what order I did them in. One of them was Jair Hill, the corner out of Michigan, wildly inconsistent, but very tall, aggressive, needs to make more tackles. His tackle miss rate is bad. That's why part of the reason he's sitting there in round 4. But he's also got some flashes where he's really good. And he's a gambler in terms of, well, let me clarify, as how he plays the ball. how he attacks the football, he will take the risky big play and try to undercut some stuff. And at times,
defensive Sorsby, is he?
And at times he will get it wrong and have to scramble back and try to play lands and all that. But he's interesting in terms of the tools. I could see him put it together this year and be very good. But like, I suspect the Browns are going to want, not to say they won't take a shorter corner. I think they're going to want a tall corner. That seemed to be, I think, the sentiment I'm getting from I think they want to make the hands across America defense, just length. So anyway, he's an interesting tool as a guy. And this is the big question I have with this corner class. I don't love it so far. We'll see. I'm hoping a bunch of guys step up. Anyway, so I did get a wide tight end. Benjamin Brahmer, I think his name is, from Penn State. He was an Iowa State tight end. He's one of the many, many, many people transferring to Iowa. He is one of those dudes who came out of high school as 6'6", 215, goes to college, and then has been bulking up. So his inline reps are there, but he's got a lot of work to do as a run blocker. But he's productive. He had a lot of pass catches. Like he led the team in receptions, was 3rd on the team in yards, and led the team in touchdowns as a big, big bodied guy. And the Browns obviously have a track record for taking tight ends who are receivers first, and then coach them up on the blocking. So he sort of fits from that standpoint. I think because Rocco Becht is also transferring to Penn State, and obviously Matt Campbell is going to Penn State, that I think he's going to have another productive year, and that could carry over. And then the last guy I took in the 4th round, because I only did 4 rounds, was I took and I don't know why he fell to this, but whatever, simulator, so blame that. Evan Tengisdal, the guard from Cincinnati, big bruiser. I'm very curious to find out how athletic he is, but he's very sound and very powerful at the point of attack. He gets after as a run blocker, and was really, after the first couple, had 2 games where he was not great, but then really cleaned it up as a pass protector. So I'm curious to see what he does. He looks to me like a guy you'd want on the right side, depending on your lineup. But I doubled up on guard because I want the Browns to get more depth and build up the pipeline. They've obviously got a situation, at least right now, where Titus Howard's going to be here for a couple of years. They've got Spencer Fano. They've got Justin Barber. We'll see what happens with Devon Jones. They've got Zion Johnson here for a couple of years. They've got a whole bunch of guys who are trying to get in the mix at right guard. Obviously, I sort of projected for they're going to still need a right guard, but I also want to fill the depth at guard to fix that spot and get another guy in there to sort of build up the pipeline and fix it. So that is where I ended up. The unsexiest draft, because other than quarterbacks, it's a whole bunch of linemen, tight ends, and
nothing wrong with that, man.
But
I'll
it's
say
what
this
they
though,
need.
Pete. The only guard that we have under contract for next year is Zion Johnson. Zinter's on his last year, right? Leviston, I want to say, is on his last year, and then Tevin Jenkins was a 1-year deal guy.
Yes. So, and that was also building off the idea that the Browns have under Andrew Berry have a very weird track record of doubling up the positions.
Yeah.
Not shock me at all if they double a corner in that draft as well. So, and obviously, you can make the argument KJ Bolden is kind of a corner because he's living in the slot, but yeah, getting that third safety and having a really, really good group of safeties would be fun.
All right. Well, it gives us something to look forward to. It gives us a good idea of where the team may be headed in the future. But either way, wonderful show as always, Pete. Absolute pleasure. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us all this time. Always a pleasure. Special thank you to the OBR and the OBR Streaming Network for hosting us and all that stuff. And guys, I say it every show. Be sure to check out OBR.com, become an insider, get to the insider forums, get all the benefits, all the articles, all the information they're pumping out of there on a daily basis. It's the best website for the Cleveland Browns you're ever going to go to. Be sure to check it out. And thank you guys again. Pete, always a pleasure, homie. I'll catch you next week. You guys have a wonderful evening, and go Browns.